Good evening. You are watching the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. First, the headlines. The quarantine procedure of the Wilaya of Muscat starts today to limit the spread of the coronavirus, and the Governorate of Muscat is under lockdown. The Ministry of Health announces the registration of 27 new confirmed cases with COVID-19. And the Sultanate welcomes the announcement by the coalition countries of a ceasefire in Yemen and calls on all Yemeni parties to achieve a comprehensive peace to end the crisis. Those were the headlines. Now for the news in detail. The Royal Oman Police clarified that the quarantine of the Wilaya of Muscat started today with the aim to limit the spread of the coronavirus. The procedure started at 10 a.m. this morning until further notice. This procedure includes closing of traffic movement with facilitating the entry of trucks, basic commodities and services such as fuel and sewage services. The Royal Oman Police called on people to cooperate for the interest of all. The Governorate of Muscat was closed today within the implementation of the procedures to limit the spread of COVID-19. This lockdown will continue until Wednesday, the 22nd of April. Within this period, including all the entrances and exits to the Governorate of Muscat, excluding emergency cases. Meanwhile, the movement of trucks and service vehicles will be facilitated. The Ministry of Health announced the registration of 27 new confirmed cases with coronavirus COVID-19, which brings the total number registered in the Sultanate to 484, including 109 recoveries. The Ministry of Health calls upon all to adhere to the isolation procedures by staying in an isolated room with an attached toilet and serving the isolated person from outside the room as instructed. The ministry also advises all citizens and residents to keep on washing hands with water and soap, as well as avoiding touching the face, nose, mouth and eyes, and follow the hygienic habits when coughing and sneezing. The relief and sheltering sector said that it will transfer people who have ended the period of the institutional isolation to their wilayas as of today, after coordination with the medical response and public health sector. They will be transferred through Muwasalat Company according to the expiry date of their isolation. The access points will be determined in their wilayas later, and the person will receive a document from the Ministry of Health confirming the end of his isolation period and not being infected with the coronavirus. The Sultanate welcomed the announcement by the coalition countries of a ceasefire in Yemen and called on all Yemeni parties to build on this step by working to prevail over the language of dialogue to achieve political ideas and initiatives to reach a permanent ceasefire agreement and a comprehensive solution to the Yemeni crisis. The Sultanate also expressed its support for the efforts of the United Nations and the ideas presented by the United Nations Secretary General in the Security Council. It also emphasized on its support for the mission of the UN envoy to Yemen to reach a comprehensive political solution that achieves peace and security in the Republic of Yemen. Still to come in our news bulletin. April and May are the rose water harvest and distillation season in Al Jabal Al Akhdar.
Non-compliance with the directives of the Supreme Committee dealing with coronavirus COVID-19 exposes you to risk and legal action. Stay safe.
Welcome back to the news from the Sultanate of Oman television. According to Johns Hopkins University, worldwide, the death toll headed toward 100,000, with the confirmed number of infected cases topping 1.6 million. Another 355,000 have recovered. The true numbers are believed to be much higher because of limited testing, different rules for counting the dead, and cover-ups by some governments. In some of the worst-hit countries, Italy and Spain, new infections, hospitalizations and deaths have been leveling off, but the daily tolls remain shocking. The 605 new deaths announced on Friday in Spain were the lowest increase since March 24. The coronavirus have claimed at least 15,843 lives there and has officially infected 152,446 people, although both the rate of contagion and mortality are dropping. Britain yesterday recorded 881 new deaths for close to 8,000 in all. New York State reported a record-breaking number of dead for a third straight day, 799. More than 7,000 people have died there, accounting for almost half of the U.S. death toll of more than 16,500. Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned the UN Security Council that the coronavirus pandemic is threatening international peace and security, potentially leading to an increase in social unrest and violence that would greatly undermine our ability to fight the disease. He urged the UN's most powerful body, which has been silent on COVID-19 since it started circling the globe, sickening and killing tens of thousands, to unite on tackling the virus, saying its engagement will be critical to mitigate the peace and security implications of the COVID-19 pandemic and would count for a lot at this anxious time. The closed meeting was the first by the Council on the pandemic, and afterward it issued its first brief press statement expressing support for all efforts of the Secretary General concerning the potential impact of the COVID-19 pandemic to conflict-affected countries, and recalled the need for unity and solidarity with all those affected. The pandemic has slammed economies around the world. The head of the International Monetary Fund has warned that the global economy is headed for the worst recession since the Depression. The UN Labour Organization said 195 million full-time jobs could be lost in the second quarter alone. In Europe, the 19 countries that use the euro currency overcame weeks of bitter divisions to agree on spending $550 billion to cushion the recession caused by the virus. As weeks of lockdowns were extended in nation after nation, governments were pressed to ease restrictions on key businesses and industries. The Spanish government worked to establish a 20 billion euro fund to help small businesses and the self-employed cope with the economic fallout. After a two-week freeze on all non-essential economic activity, factories and construction sites in Spain can resume work Monday, while schools, most shops and offices will remain closed. Travel restrictions in many African countries are creating widespread pain for low-income workers who often have little or no savings. A staggering 16.8 million Americans have lost their jobs in 3 weeks, with more expected to follow. The OPEC oil cartel and nations including Russia have agreed to boost oil prices by cutting as much as 10 million barrels a day in production, or a tenth of global supply. More countries, including the United States, were discussing their own cuts in what would be an unprecedented global pact to stabilize the market. The agreement between OPEC and partner countries aims to cut 10 million barrels per day until July, then 8 million barrels per day through the end of the year, and 6 million a day for 16 months beginning in 2021. Mexico had initially blocked the deal, but its president Andrés Manuel López Obrador said that he had agreed with U.S. President Donald Trump that the U.S. will compensate what Mexico cannot add to the proposed cuts. That paves the way for cuts that experts estimate could reach 15 million barrels a day, about 15% of world production. The price of crude oil is down by over 50% since the start of the year, and while that helps consumers and energy-hungry businesses, it is below the cost of production for many countries and companies. During the month of April and May every year, farmers in Al Jabal Al Akhdar pick the roses to process them into rose water. More details in the following report.
At this time of the year, the terraces in Al Jabal Al Akhdar turn pink. portraying a breathtaking view accompanied by a mesmerizing scent. It is an indication to the start of rose harvest season, which takes place during the months of April and May each year. As soon as rose harvest season begins, villagers and their children rise early in the morning to pluck the blossoms. The harvest is collected in baskets made from palm fronds and then transported to a traditional extraction unit where the rose petals are distilled at a mud oven. There, the rose petals are let to simmer for about 4 hours in a vessel made of copper. After boiling, the rose water is poured into a large pot to be later put in bottles, after which the rose water will be ready to be sold and used. Traditionally, rose water is particularly used as a flavoring agent in desserts, especially the Omani halwa. It is as well used during Ramadan and Eid in preparing meals, and as a perfume in weddings. For the Sultanate of Oman Television, Saleh bin Khalfan al-Rahbi.
This is the Sultanate of Oman Television. Before we end tonight's bulletin, here are the main points once again. The quarantine procedure of the Wilaya of Muscat starts today to limit the spread of the coronavirus, and the Governorate of Muscat is under lockdown. The Ministry of Health announces the registration of 27 new confirmed cases with COVID-19. And the Sultanate welcomes the announcement by the coalition countries of a ceasefire in Yemen and calls on all Yemeni parties to achieve a comprehensive peace to end the crisis. With that, we come to the end of tonight's news bulletin. From all of us here at the newsroom and the studios, it's good night.
وصولا إلى بيئة صحية خالية من الآفات، ولتكون المواقع السكنية والسياحية فضاء أفضل لقضاء أجمل الأوقات. بلدية ظفار تطلق حملة إصحاح بيئي للقضاء على الحشرات والبعوض والقوارض وإزالة كافة المخلفات والمشوهات. تهدف الحملة إلى نشر الوعي ومشاركة المجتمع في الحملة. تنطلق الحملة بشكل متزامن في ولايات صلالة وطاقة ومرباط نتيجة انتشار نواقل الأمراض وخاصة البعوض في هذه الولايات. تعاونكم ومشاركتكم مع البلدية يسهم في تحقيق أهداف الحملة. يداً بيد لبيئة صحية.
عزيزي المستمع، لأن سلامتك واجب عليك، تجنب المصافحة والتلامس، وابتعد عن التجمعات بكافة أشكالها، والزم منزلك. وإن كنت تعاني من أعراض مرضية تنفسية، زر أقرب مؤسسة صحية أو تواصل على مركز اتصال وزارة الصحة 2444 1999. حفظ الله تعالى الجميع من كل سوء ومكروه.
The Ministry of Health urges citizens and residents who are subject to quarantine and isolation not to leave their homes for their own safety and to safeguard their families and the community from the contagious coronavirus COVID-19. The Ministry of Health also calls on citizens and residents to stay home.
أنا وأحلامي الصغيرة والأماني تبتسم رغم آلامي الكبيرة أنسج الفرحة حلم. عالمي كله ورود يملي الدنيا وجود.
عالمي كله ورود يملي الدنيا وجود.
رغم إني في حياتي ما عرفت إلا الآلام. حايرة حايرة لحظة زماني ضايعة ضايعة بوجه الرياح. حايرة حايرة لحظة زماني ضايعة ضايعة بوجه الرياح. الصبر مني يعاني مسافرة فيني جراح.
مني يعاني مسافرة فيني جراح.
ليل وامطار وشراع خطوتي هم وضياع. ليل وامطار وشراع خطوتي هم وضياع. من هذا الظلم. من هذا الظلم. من هذا الظلم. تعبت وضاق بالكون الوسيع. ما بين قراب أحلامي تضيع. تعبت وضاق بالكون الوسيع. ما بين قراب أحلامي تضيع. ألم فيني ألم فيني ياخذني وضيع.
بلا شاطئ بلا شاطئ
ولا حتى مواني.
بلا شاطئ بلا شاطئ
ولا حتى مواني. من هذا الظلم. من هذا الظلم. من هذا الظلم.
اسمع يا ناصر، العم رجب ما بيك تزعجه بعد اليوم. يكفي انك انت وديت الرجال للشرطة. العم رجب خط احمر، ما بيك تقرب عليه، انت فاهم؟ ما بي كلام زايد. العم رجب هذا اللي انت بتسجنه وديته للشرطة هو اللي ترجاني عشان اخليك. يوم انك انت متغيب، لو جيت علي انا ما تقعد عندي ولا دقيقة، كان استغنيت عنك وعن خدماتك.
أنا كنت مريض وأعتقد أنه هذا عذر كافي يخليني أغيب عن الدوام.
تفضل يا عم رجب، استريح عم رجب.
هذا وش الريح.
اسمع يا عم رجب، هذا هو ناصر قدامك. إذا تعدى عليك أو أزعجك مرة ثانية تعال عندي أنا وكلمني، أنا أعرف شلون أتصرف معه.
يا أستاذة سميرة، ترى ناصر رجال طيب، وأنا ما عندي إلا واحد من عيالي، وهو ما يدري. سامحي
سامحني يا رجل.
مسموح مسموح يا ولدي، مسموح مسموح دنيا وآخرة.
ناصر تقدر تروح.
الله.
سدرة شكلها مرتاحة أختي سدرة معهم. أروح وأرجع وأبشر أمي بسرعة. ماشي فايدة من الجلسة يعني. خاف لحد ينتبه لوجودي وتصير سالفة. لازم أرجع بسرعة للبيت وأفرح أمي. لازم.
أنا إيش سويت؟ إيش سويت؟ كيف طاوعني قلبي ورميت بنتي؟ كيف؟ الله يخزيك يا شيطان. يا رب سامحني. ما عندي حل ثاني. أنا لازم أحاول أنسى اللي سويته بصدري. آخ يا بنت، آخ يا حبيبتي.
إيش عندك يا عم رجب؟
ايش اقول لك؟ انا ما ادري شلون ابدا.
قول لي يا عم رجب، قول.
سلامة الله، ولدي علي رجع وقاعد يدور علي، وانا خاف انه يلقاني يرجعني مرة ثانية على دار العجزة.
علي رجع؟ هو وش اللي ذكره فيك بعد كل هالسنين؟
انا ما ادري شو اللي ذكره فيني، بس عاد اقول لك انا خايف.
هو يعرف مكانك؟
لو يعرف مكانك يعني من زمان.
زين، خله يعرف مكانك، خله يجي. انا قصدي لو جاء وبغى يوديك لدار العجزة انا اللي بوقف له. لا تخاف يا عم رجب، انا معك وفي ظهرك.
لا، وانا معاك ماني خايف، وانا عارف انك بظهري، بس الصدق انا خايف على اختي ام سعد وزوجها. هذا مكانهم، مو راحمهم.
حتى هم يا عم رجب لا تخاف عليهم. البلد فيها قانون، ما يقدر يسوي لهم شيء، ما يقدر يأذيهم ولا يضرهم. ارتاح يا عم رجب، انا معك وراح اوقف معك لآخر